The application will not be allowed to proceed. When they were put on pause as a result of the tragic shooting that occurred at one of the injection sites, a review was undertaken to decide what better methods we could use to put people on the path to recovery and get them treatment.
So what the government is now proposing are homelessness and addictions recovery treatment hubs. If Windsor is interested, it would have to separately apply to get one of these hubs, and that would focus on treatment beds and programs. But bringing us back to SafePoint, it took 7 years for this site to open, which included extensive research and community engagement. It first opened in April last year, and it was able to do so because it got federal approval as an urgent public health needs site. But a lack of funding closed it at the end of December. Funding was supposed to come with provincial approval, yet its application was paused due to that review. In a statement, NDP MPP Lisa Gretzky for Windsor West said that, quote, Doug Ford has made the callous decision to take away a vital tool that saves lives, end quote.
Jen, a lot of people have advocated for this site in Windsor. What are they saying today?
Yeah, the person that I spoke with was extremely disappointed and upset. They were saying that the sites are meant to save lives, and that's exactly what is needed right now as people continue to die from a toxic drug supply. Experts say that research shows that these sites prevent deaths. Here's Riley McLaren. He's the leader of a local advocacy group pushing to have SafePoint reopen.
The proper medical research doesn't appear to be done here. People can't recover who are dead. If one knows anything, like even the very basic about addiction treatment, they know the stages of change, that people don't get off of drugs overnight.
Early numbers show that last year, 128 people died in Windsor, Essex due to drugs. The Windsor-Essex County Health Unit wasn't available to comment on next steps today.
Thanks so much for that, Jen. That's a CBC's Jennifer LaGrassa reporting live. A trial started today in Windsor for a suspect charged with sexual assault after an incident that happened while staying in a women's shelter. 33-year-old Cody D'Entremont was staying at the Welcome Center in March 2023. A woman staying in the same room said D'Entremont sexually assaulted her. The victim, who says she knew D'Entremont by the name Desiree Anderson, alleges the assault happened while the two were watching Netflix in the same bed in the room on a Sunday evening. The trial is expected to last 3 days. Windsor Police is looking for suspects after 2 vehicles were deliberately set on fire. The incident was captured by a porch camera. It shows 2 suspects arriving in a white SUV. One person approaches a sedan parked along the 1300 block of Langlois Avenue. The sedan is doused with a liquid substance and set it on fire. The suspects then peel away. The incident occurred this morning shortly after midnight. By the time officers arrived, the sedan and minivan were fully engulfed in flames. There were no injuries as a result of the incident, but the 2 vehicles were destroyed. With back to school just a couple of weeks away, a local nonprofit is brightening the day of some local youth. The group called YQG Kids handed out approximately 50 backpacks filled with new running shoes and an assortment of supplies in Ford City this afternoon. CBC Windsor spoke to some of the organizers.
Oh, there he is. What do we say?
We're handing out school supplies as well as backpacks. And so we've provided the kids with a beautiful pair of brand name shoes, which we found a shoe store that went out of business. So we basically bought 150 pairs of shoes there. We have markers, pencil crayons, and an eraser and a backpack. So we have a limited amount of school supplies in here, but with the budget we had, we were able to provide all this for the kids. This all came about just for my heart for kids in the inner city, and I don't really think there's enough programs out there for the kids in Windsor.
And the whole goal is just to basically give back to these kids because they're the most vulnerable. During the summer, like she said, we were able to give lunches with like sandwiches, wraps, snacks in there, and also just we get to be there, and we've had a lot of great feedback from the kids, lots of smiles, lots of little cards, gifts, stuff like that.
They're
so
very appreciative.
Very appreciative.
If you didn't have a chance to get outside last night and look up, here's what you missed. A rare astronomical event. It was the first supermoon of the year, which also happens to be called a blue moon. Now, a supermoon is when the moon is at its closest point to us, making it appear larger than usual. The term blue moon doesn't mean the moon is blue, but rather indicates that it's the third full moon of 4 in a season. These images of the moon over Windsor were captured by our video producer, Mike Evans. The shadows on the moon are clouds passing over top. Chris, what a nice kind of fall-feeling day. What do we have in store?
Yeah, you're 100% right, Meg. A little bit of a cooler, fresher day. This is obviously following a fairly wet weekend that we had, especially in Toronto. On Saturday, there was more than 100 millimeters falling throughout the course of the day due to heavy thunderstorms. Now we're kind of transitioning over to high pressure. It's moving in from the west. That continues to produce a cooler, fresher northerly wind, and as a result, daytime highs a little bit below normal. Normal daytime high for this time of year is around 26, and we peaked at around 21. Currently, temperatures are cooler than average across the entire board, a little bit closer to home. We're basically seeing temperatures in the high teens to the low 20s right now. Windsor right now at 21. That's the daytime high today. London's at 17, 18 in Kitchener, and humidity not a factor. What you see is basically what it's going to feel like, and this will be the trend as we step forward into the day tomorrow. Not much to point in terms of active weather across the region, and we will have high pressure building in for tomorrow, and that will once again create that northerly wind, keeping us a little bit cooler than average. But over the next couple of days, we'll have a nice run of sun and also temperatures that will begin to climb. Humidity values will begin to climb as well. And once again, with high pressure building in, kind of the precipitation outlook, not much to look out for. There's going to be lots of sunshine for the day tomorrow, and we'll hold on to sunshine for the next couple of days. It's once again into this weekend that we start to see high pressure drift a little bit further to the west. That will set up more of a southwesterly wind, enabling temperatures to climb a little bit. So it's going to be a beautiful stretch of weather, but once again, it's going to be a little cool, especially for those overnight lows. We might see temperatures in the high single digits in a lot of areas away from the lakes. Temperatures I have right now for the overnight around 12 in Windsor, 11 through London, 14 through Sarnia, and through the afternoon, temperatures are going to basically be on par with the actual humidex as well. We have a northerly wind that will once again kind of create that fresh feel. So if you're not a fan of the high heat, high humidity like we've seen and felt very frequently this summer, it does look like you'll get a break from that, at least for now. 23 for tomorrow, lots of sunshine. Similar story on Thursday with a high of 25, and those overnight lows will begin to climb as well. But for tonight and tomorrow night, it's going to be fresh. You don't necessarily have to worry about the air conditioning unit to help cool off your bedroom and help you sleep. The winds will be just enough to allow that coolness factor in the bedroom. But temperatures will be around 26 for Friday. We'll start to see a little bit more cloud roll into town for Friday. A system is trying to move in for Saturday, but at this point it looks like we're going to escape with generally mostly cloud cover at times. A very slight chance of a few hit or miss showers, but of course if you have something big or small planned, we'll keep you updated on that if the forecast changes. And currently I have 30 degrees for your high on Sunday, feeling closer to 35. So Meg, a beautiful stretch of weather, a nice run of sun, as I always like to say. Once again, with the northerly winds, though, it was a little cool, fresher. Temperatures today and tomorrow more like, I would say, mid to almost late September as opposed to late August. So something for everyone, I guess.
I am not ready for the fall at all, Chris. I want to see that warm weather last so long, so I'm looking forward to that weekend.
Weekend looks fantastic.
Thanks so much for that.
You got it, Nick.
A look at our neighbors across the border. Donald Trump is in Michigan today rallying support. The CBC's Chris Ensing spent the day over there and brings us the latest on why Michigan is shaping up to be an important state in the upcoming American election. More on that after the break. It's day 2 of the Democratic Party's national convention in the U.S. The current Vice President, Kamala Harris, is all but guaranteed to be named as the party's choice as candidate for President of the United States. And last night was a symbolic passing of the torch by the current President, Joe Biden. CBC's Katie Simpson is at the convention in Chicago.
Officials with the Democrats and the Republicans can agree on one thing. They say in the state of Michigan, it is ground zero. The Republican state chair saying that whoever wins this state will become president. This isn't new for people in Michigan, saying that it's now a purple state because of how it flip-flops back and forth between the Democrats and the Republicans, with the Democrats winning most recently. Today, former President Donald Trump in town for a press conference, not a rally, though it wouldn't be surprising to be confused because of the atmosphere that is outside of this location. It's a strong show of support. Hundreds on hands to catch a glimpse of the man they want back in the White House. Seeing his motorcade, enough to leave some in the crowd speechless.
Oh,
my top priority.
Amazing.
I don't even have the words.
So good.
The speech inside, about 45 minutes long, focusing on crime. Outside, people listening say he's talking about what matters to them.
The big one is a lot of the people that are crossing the border that we're paying for to come here is a big one, and they're not, well, the people that we have now aren't really helping as far as doing anything. We have like veterans that are homeless and they don't even get the support and help they need.
These are his serious supporters, camping out for hours to catch a glimpse as he passes by. With his motorcade leaving, people know he'll likely be back in Michigan again soon. Both parties expected to make continued visits to the battleground state in an effort to win over undecided voters. Inflation, access to guns and abortions are what people believe will be ballot box issues. The Democrats have state control, with abortion access enshrined in the state constitution following the 2022 midterms. Michigan was also one of the first states the new ticket of Kamala Harris and Tim Walz visited when Joe Biden dropped out of the race. In Canada, manufacturers and automakers are watching this race closely. An analyst telling me that they're holding on to investments, waiting for America to decide which path it chooses to move forward, saying that the difference between the Democrats and the Republicans can change how they chart their future, and that will be decided come November. Chris Ensing, CBC News, Howell, Michigan.
And a clarification there, that was Chris Ensing. He is at the Donald Trump rally in Michigan. Now we're going to go to the Democratic Party's national convention in the U.S. The current Vice President, Kamala Harris, is all but guaranteed to be named as the party's choice as candidate. Katie Simpson has more.
The United Center here in Chicago, it is home turf for former U.S. President Barack Obama, and he is the headline speaker at tonight's convention. He remains one of the most popular and influential members of his party, and he and his wife, Michelle Obama, will both make a case to voters and people here in this room for Kamala Harris.
I think the former President Obama is going to talk about that hope thing, right? The thing that really catapulted him into his historic election and served him well over the course of 2 terms.
Democrats have tried to frame this election and their opponent, Donald Trump, as an existential question for America, and they paint Donald Trump as an existential threat to the country. And that is going to be a theme for tonight's programming. Former Republicans, as well as former staffers for Donald Trump, they're going to be speaking about their own personal experiences as to why they agree with Democrats on that point. Kamala Harris will be skipping tonight's events in Chicago, which is not unusual. She'll actually be campaigning a couple of hours north in here in Milwaukee. There is a real sense of excitement, of energy and joy now that there has been this historic change to the Democratic ticket. There have also been major shows of respect for President Joe Biden.
I love the job, but I love my country more.
In an emotional and fiery speech, Joe Biden offered his full endorsement of Kamala Harris, marking a generational shift in power that the Democratic Party is experiencing and will hope will resonate beyond the walls of this convention center. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Chicago.
Stay with us. We have more news coming up after the break. Canada's inflation rate fell to 2.5% in July, the lowest in more than 3 years. It's one of the economic indicators the Bank of Canada will take into account before its next interest rate decision on September 4th. CBC's Scott Peterson has the details.
Inflation is moving in the right direction. That's according to what officials at the Bank of Canada want, and probably most Canadians across the country as well, wanting prices to ease, to get more buying power. And this is a result of all those rate hikes that we saw from the Bank of Canada to slow the economy, to bring down prices. So that, in effect, is working. It would have come down even more if it had not been for gasoline prices up almost 2.5% just during the month of July alone. When you look at that peak, we were at 8.1%. That was decades high inflation back in June 2022. Last year, for comparison's sakes, we were at 3.3%, so prices going in the right direction. We're looking at individual items. Food prices cooling, 2.7% is the increase year over year, but travel tours actually coming down close to 3%. Passenger vehicles down almost 1.5%, and used vehicles down 5.7%. And that's an interesting metric because during the height of the pandemic, used vehicle prices were up close to 34% because of hard to get parts and a supply side disruptions. But going further, shelter prices up 5.7%. That's the smallest increase in 17 months. Good news there. But rent costs still up 8.5% year over year, and mortgage interest costs up a whopping 21% for anyone having to refinance their mortgages during this time. It is painful to do so. A lot of questions now as far as what the Bank of Canada is going to do at their next September 4th interest rate decision. Pretty much unanimously from economists, they believe that we are going to see a third rate reduction. So good news for a lot of mortgage holders out there and anyone with high debt levels. But the question economists now have is, might we see a couple more before the year end to prop up the economy from slumping too much? Scott Peterson, CBC News, Toronto.
All right, before we go here, we want to remind you that CBC Windsor is inviting people who live in the Sandwich neighborhood to take part in our listening session. We want to hear from residents what matters most to you and your community and what stories you think we should be telling. It's happening tomorrow, August 21st from 6 until 7:30 p.m. at Mackenzie Hall. It's a free event. You can register by checking out the story on our website or scanning the QR code on your screen. Well, that's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. You can also download the CBC News app for stories that matter most to you. And don't forget to watch The National tonight at 9 on CBC News Network, 10 p.m. on the CBC News app, CBC TV, and streaming on CBC Gem and CBC Explore. Thanks so much for tuning in. Looking forward to seeing you back here tomorrow night.